The Doom Scrolls is a joke. It's a podcast. Nothing we say should be taken very seriously. Viewers are advised to watch something else and find a safe space because all of you are pussified. Everybody's been pussified. What do you watch and not be offended by it? It's off. I just got back from the club dancing with all the fucking cool goth kids. Anyway, I'm Christopher Rodriguez from here in San Antonio. Um, I work today at both of my jobs. I work in a warehouse, and then after I get out of the warehouse, I go straight to the fucking restaurant and start waiting tables. Tonight was a disaster because it's 30 degrees. It started off at 50 degrees, but anytime San Antonio goes from like, it started off today when I woke up, it was like 60 degrees, and then the sun came out, it reached the heights of 70 degrees, and then for some reason when the sun started going down, it went all the way down to like 50 degrees, and then eventually it went down to the low high of, oh shit, fuck, it went down to about 38 degrees. Take it right now. No telling where it's at now. This fucking city is so fucking bipolar. You could never stay in 1 degree. Hold on, where's it? Okay, it's 35 degrees from 77. It's 34 now. It keeps going down from 77 degrees. So I went to work today at the restaurant, and really nobody came. So I clocked in. I stood there for like 4 or 5 hours. I didn't make a dime. I lost money. I spent more money drinking than I made waiting table, which is a fucking fraud. But I left from the job site to the club. I went to Cream tonight. Cream is an amazing spot. Cream is where all the goth kids go to hang out with me, or where I go hang out with the goth kids. And they played my favorite band, and one is one of my favorite bands of all time. I don't know why. Maybe it's their arpeggio. Maybe it's because it's like really cool gothy dance music. I don't like goth music the way other people like goth music. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like what I call Dracula music. I'm not into Dracula type sound. So I'm sorry, Detra. I'm sorry, Eli. I'm sorry, Dale. I'm sorry, all the DJs. I don't like Dracula shit. I'm more into like what Angel plays. My friend DJ Angel, just Angel. He's one of my favorite DJs in town. Or Andres. What the fuck does Andres go by nowadays? I have no idea. But he's one of my favorite DJs. And there's Andreas and there's DJ Angel. Other than that, everybody else just plays whatever they want to play. I like the people that play what I like. There's DJ Jake. DJ Jedi Jake, you know, he's the Jedi. DJ Jedi Jake is one of the cooler DJs. He's at Industry, one of my favorite clubs in town. Industry, one of my favorite bartenders works there. Bartendresses, is that the word? I don't know, but I love Industry. I love Cream. I love Angel, and I love Jake. I love Eli and Detra and Dale. But honestly, to be honest, I like dance music. I don't really like goth shit. I hang out with the goths, but I'm more into like watching girls dance and shake their asses. I don't know if that's a bad thing to say, but I think that's just okay to say because I'm a man. But anyway, I came from the club tonight. The club was pretty interesting. Danced with a bunch of cool women. Hung out with my friends. Shout outs to Megan, shout outs to Joanne and Joe, shout outs to Steven and shout outs to Danielle, shout outs to the family over there at Cream. But I've been hanging out lately. Things have been going very well. The worst I could say that I went through within the last couple of days was like ideal issues, like differences of opinion. I posted something that had to do with my the book that I've been into lately. I was reading the 48 Laws of Power, which is like a really good book if you like look into it. 48 Laws of Power is a book about like power plays when it comes to interpersonal relationships. Like you don't want to act on all of your fucking initial ideas when it comes to talking to another human being. Say you're smarter than somebody in some way when it comes to something. You don't want to jump on top of it right away because it could initially, like, you don't want to lay all your cards out on the table, right? You want to let other people think that they're a little bit smarter than you sometimes. You want to give people the upper hand sometimes. That way they think that they're ahead of you in some way. And so I think the 48 Laws of Power scares a lot of people because it seems very manipulative. So I went on TikTok today and I posted a TikTok. You can find me on TikTok. I go under Redfield. What is it? Redfield. I'm gonna find out. Yeah, I'm gonna look it up. We'll find out. It's like TikTok, and here we go. You search for Redfield Christopher on TikTok. That's my TikTok page. And I posted a picture. I posted a video of me talking about the 48 Laws of Power. And then I started looking through TikTok at people's posts about the 48 Laws of Power. And some of the people on TikTok were like, this is a very manipulative book. This book was banned in prisons because prisoners use this book to like try to harm other human beings. And I'm like, you know what? Prisoners try to use everything to harm human beings. So the book isn't the issue. The issue is that like prisoners got turned on to this book, but the book teaches you power plays. The book teaches you how to handle yourself without giving all your cards out to people. And you don't every single piece of your card when it comes to dealing with other human beings. You don't know when people are trying to manipulate you, but you definitely want to know how to realize who's trying to manipulate you. So the 48 Laws of Power is it's a very important book. The last law of the 48 Laws of Power happens to be you should be fluent. Forget about all the other 48 laws, the 47 laws. Just remember to be fluent. Forget about all the other laws and just remember that everything is always changing and nothing is ever set in stone. The 48 Laws of Power is a very important book. I posted a video about infectious, unhealthy, and unhappy people. And the idea there was to beware of people who are always unhappy, beware of people who are always going through something. So, in other words, you always have friends who are like going through something that's terrible. You always have friends who are in the middle of a crisis, people who can't pay their bills, people who don't have enough money to eat dinner, people who don't have enough money to take care of their families, etc. And you have to realize that these people are not just going through shit because they're unlucky. A lot of these people are going through shit because behind the scenes, they are doing shit that they shouldn't be doing. People who are using heavy drugs, people who are heavy alcoholics, people who are using their money to do things that have nothing to do with progressing in life. So I posted a video about this today and I got into like a ideological argument with somebody. Somebody was like, well, I have, issues where I couldn't help it. I've gotten into a lot of these problems. I have PTSD. And I figure like, if you as a human being have a lot of issues and you have a lot of problems, the last thing you need to do is to personalize a TikTok video that some random fucking guy has posted and to message him and to get on him about his, his ideas. So I don't know. That's a terrible way to start the show. I'm not gonna. But TikTok's a weird place and people are very strange. I started to watch a bunch of videos about the 48 Laws of Power, and a lot of these people were women, and a lot of women were like, oh, if you know a guy who read the 48 Laws of Power and who quotes this book, steer clear of him because he is a sociopath. And I think like I don't think I'm a sociopath. Perhaps I am. I don't know. But I don't think so. Honestly, Sociopaths don't give a fuck who they harm or what they're about or what they do to people, but there are intellectuals who want to know what sociopaths are about, right? Like there are people who want to know how to how to carry themselves around sociopaths, said individuals who might be using these laws to hurt other people. So I've been reading the book. This will be my second read through, and a lot of these laws of power are very important laws, you know. Um one and some of them are crazy. There's a law in there where it's like make other people dependent on you, which is like a very rare thing to be able to do. How could you make people dependent on you? It's not something that you could easily do. But then there are other ones where it's like let other people think that you're interested in the things they're interested in, which is a very manipulative tactic. But if you learn how to spot some of these laws in other people, then it's beneficial to you. So this is a really good book to read. And anybody who says that it's not a good book to read, these are the kind of people to steer clear of, to be honest. Because there's such a thing. I mean, like I read a lot. I read a lot. And some of the things that I've heard from other beings is like there are human beings that don't want you to know how to avoid some of the things that they've been using in their whole lives. So I've seen some women say that the 48 Laws of Power is a tactic, a book of tactics to manipulate people. And they tend to say that it's like what men use to manipulate women because the 48 Laws of Power is banned in prisons, and prisoners seem to use this book to use, these are tactics they use against other prisoners. And some of these women in these TikToks were saying to read the, what is it, 47 or 48 Laws of Seduction, which I have yet to read. But honestly, that's going to be that's going to be my next, I'm going to cover that on the next show. I have been drinking. I'm pretty fucked up. But the 48 Laws of Power, I think, is really useful to any human being, women or men. But anybody who says you shouldn't read these books, it's the same thing as like people who burn books. It's the same thing as people who are like, and I've heard this before, there are humans out there that were like, we don't want the slaves to read. We don't want the slaves to learn how to be better. There are certain people in life who want men to be less masculine. They want women to be less in control of their own lives. And in other words, there are people who want the slaves to not know how to read. There's a saying from a long time ago where it's like, we don't want the slaves to be able to take care of themselves. There were people who would get up in arms when the slaves were teaching each other how to read. What is it? Pope Rodrigo Borgia. Around the time when Pope Rodrigo Borgia was around, they were still hurting people. They were still destroying people who were learning how to read the Bible and interpret the Bible for themselves. And today, like, modern day human beings are still behaving that way, and that's disgusting, honestly. Anybody who says that knowledge is something to be feared, or knowledge is like, anybody who says that if somebody reads this book, you should watch out for these people, those are the people you should actually watch out for. There are sociopaths who read books who use these kinds of tactics against each other. But I would steer clear of anybody who says that anybody who reads these books are terrible or in some way not right for being able to read these books. Anyway, welcome to the Doom Scrolls. I'm Christopher, by the way. I've had a great week. I've been making tons of money, working both jobs, taking care of myself, taking care of my family. My daughter's crazy. I bought my daughter a vanity set for her birthday, which is cool. She's a 5-year-old, but I'm teaching her like there's nothing wrong with makeup. I don't think there's no like artistic way to be. There's no like sets of knowledge that you shouldn't know when you're young. But I think that anybody who tells you that you can't learn for yourself, anybody who tells you that you can't find your way through knowledge, those are people to be afraid of. But definitely steer clear of anybody who tries to limit you. And I don't know. Let's start the show off here. It's been about 15 minutes till since we started. There's a lot of people who are like, have you guys ever heard of the crabs in a bucket? There's like a crabs in a bucket theory where you have like crabs in a bucket, and there's a fisherman who's caught all these crabs, and a person comes up to the fisherman and is like, hey, you should watch out for your crabs. There's one of your crabs about to climb out of the bucket. And the fisherman's like, oh, don't worry about that. He's going to be fine. And the person's like, what do you mean? And the fisherman's like, just watch the crab. And there's a crab. He's about to climb his way out of the bucket. He's lifting himself out of the. And before you know it, there's another crab that grabs him by the fucking bottom of his fucking bottom crab claw and pulls him back into the bucket. There's a lot of human beings like that out here. There are a lot of people who don't want you to crawl out of the bucket. They don't want you to get any better. They don't want you to fucking succeed in life. And you'd be surprised like how many people are like that in the world. Um Little did I know that before I started this podcast, like little did I know that there would be people who don't want me to talk about the things that I've been through, regardless of the fact that my ideas could be helpful to anybody, or my ideas could uplift somebody out of any kind of like poverty or like self-destructive self-esteem, like lack of self-esteem, or any of those negative parts of life. There were people who don't want me to help anybody else get out of these things. And the reason why is because I think people look at me and they're like, yeah, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Who the fuck does he think he is? Why does he think he's somebody who could help anybody else? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe because and everybody has some way, shape, or form. Everybody has the, but not everybody's willing to even try, right? Not everybody can. There we are. Not everybody is willing to put the time forward to help somebody else get out of a hole that they're in. And when somebody sees somebody doing that, they get uptight. They start to think that, who the fuck is that person? Who does he think he is? And I'm like, you know what? I don't know. I'm just compelled to do it. I couldn't say anything else. That's where I'm coming. But I've been having a good time. I've been going out after work. I work 2 jobs, and then after work I go out. I am with the Flamingo Bats. Tonight we went out to Cream. Cream is a pretty good spot. The Cream on Hildebrand, and we went out. We had some. We danced a little bit. We request some songs. We hang out with the DJ. We hang out with other people. And we just have a great time, and our spirit becomes uplifted. And around that, we start to see some weird shit happening, and I want to speak on some of those weird things, right? Why, for example, this is one of the things that I've been coming across. I'm a single man. Obviously, I'm a terrible human being, but I'm a single human being, and I tend to look at people with some kind of interest, and I watch them from afar, and I pay attention to their behaviors, and I talk to people, and I ask them like what they're looking for as far as finding a human mate. And I talk to these women because I'm a guy and I like women, and I ask them like, what are you looking for in a man, right? And some of these women are like, I want somebody who has A, B, and C, and who is a spiritual being, or somebody who is a religious human being, or somebody who is a Christian, Catholic, whatever, blah 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 person, somebody who has a job where they make, you know, this amount of money, and where they have the ability to take care of me and love me and take care of me. And a lot, that's cool. I respect that. And for some reason, the same people end up with like the trashiest humans. They end up with like the trashiest, like, I don't know how to say this without being a complete asshole, but they end up with like the minimum wageiest types of dudes. And I have a feeling I know exactly where it's coming from. I think it's a sexual thing. I think it's like a whoa. I think it's like a lust thing. So it's like, okay, you have all these standards, and you're talking this whole game about like the kind of person you want in your life, somebody who could take care of you and your kids, and who has said amount of money, and who has said type of a religious background, and who has this kind of career. You don't want somebody who works too much. You want them to make a certain amount in the least amount of hours, and that's the kind of person you want. Yet you hook up with like the kinds of guys that work in a mediocre type of a job, or you work you want the kind of guy that is like bartender, and or like barback, whatever. And I'm like, dude, are you fucking kidding me? You're talking all this game about wanting like a great human being, somebody who is doing all these wonderful things, but you settle for this fucking low quality human being. Which, like, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm not trying to say that these people are low quality people exactly. But you talk all this game and you're really not about what you say. So what I've suspected, what I've figured is that a lot of these women are, they have these really high standards that they're using as a defense mechanism to keep them from being in a relationship with somebody, but allow them to keep, hooking up with random guys and trying different people out. And okay, cool. It is what it is. But don't say that, you're looking for some high quality person if you're really just trying to hook up with these low quality. I don't know what to say about that. Maybe I'm bitter. Yes, obviously, yes. Anyway, that was just a rant I had to go on. And we're in almost halfway to the midway mark here for this show. But I can't help it. These are things that I think about throughout the week here. Um I want this show to be about me, which is terrible, but I want the show to be about what I want it to be about. And sometimes it's just about the things I want to gripe about. Sometimes it's just about the things that I'm fucking pissed off about. And I don't really get mad easily, but I get annoyed, and I mostly get annoyed when it comes to like the hypocrisy of human beings. You know what I'm saying? There are a lot of people who have a lot of problems in their lives, people who are going through some shit, but they're not willing to look at themselves. In other words, there are people who have like relationship issues. They pick the wrong people. They pick the wrong types of person. They pick people who hurt them. But it's not like it's one person. It's like a multiple choice situation. And they go through three or four different people, and they're fucked over left and right. And they don't understand what's going on, and they don't understand what they're going through. But the truth of the matter is, like, the common denominator is it's you. You know what I mean? Like, the common denominator is you. If you keep fucking picking people who are fucking you over, there is nothing else to say other than you're the problem. You could pick these people who make bad choices. But if you consistently pick people who make bad choices, you're the one that's making the first bad choice. And I just hate it because honestly, I've been steering clear of people. I've been steering clear of human beings over the last couple of months. I was just in a really fucked up relationship up until February. And here we go. We're gonna talk about the bad relationship I was in since um it started in 2020. In 2020, I was into like hard drugs. I was taking a bunch of hard drugs, heroin, coke, pills, speed, whatever, like Xanax, skeletal relaxers, benzos, whatever you want to say. I did it. If I found it, I did it. Coke, weed, alcohol, whiskey, whatever. It didn't matter. I just did it all. Oxys, Adderalls, whatever. I loved drugs up until, a couple of years back, but I dated a person who was like, she was pretty cool when I met her. I met her at Amp. I met her at the Amp room, and she was dancing, and she was a little like, she was kind of a chubby chick, kind of a little bit chunky, and I saw her dancing with her cousin, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go up to this girl, and I've never really danced before then, and I was never a dancer, but I figured I'm gonna do this because she's dancing with her cousin. They seem like they might be related, so I'm gonna go and dance up to her because she was the cuter one, and she was very pretty. Not gonna lie, she was very cute, very pretty. I was attracted to her. She was a little bit of a bigger lady, but I like wanted to spend time with her. So I went up to her, danced with her. I bought her some drinks. We hung out, and later that night we hooked up, which is like red flag number one. Red flag number one is like you don't hook up with somebody you just met. It's probably not going to be good for you in the end. It's not a good idea. So we hung out and we hooked up, and I know I went home and I was to hardcore drug, and that went on for a couple weeks. But from the time I met her up until a few weeks later, I decided to stop using drugs, stop using hard drugs, and I went through cold turkey from heroin, and she saw me going through that, and she kind of admired the fact that I had that kind of resolve. Kind of like decided that it's good that you are not trying to do heroin, and I know how much heroin has a hold over human beings. So I respect that, and I see that as like a good trait when it comes to you. So me and her hit it off very well. We spent a lot of time together. I want to say maybe 2 or 3 weeks went by from the time I met her, and she was like, "The environment you're in is not good for you." I was staying with a dude who was like an alcoholic. Um, I moved out of my apartment to live with this dude because me and my girlfriend didn't want to really pay bills, and we just wanted to kind of get high and get fucked up, and one of my friends was willing to take me in, so we moved in with him and we did tons of drugs while he was drinking a bunch. And he was like a very well-known he was like a very hardcore alcoholic, and me and my girlfriend at the time weren't doing too well. So the girl that I met at Amp asked me if I wanted to live with her. So I moved in with her, and I went to NA for a couple years, which was great. NA was an amazing place for me to learn about myself and my spirit. And I want to say that going to NA, it kind of impressed her. It made her think like this guy's on the right track. So me and her were living together for about a year and a half. And after about a year and a half, I moved out of her apartment into my sister's house. So I lived with my sister for about a year and a half, and the girl that I was living with lost her apartment and needed somewhere to stay. So she moved in with me and my sister, and me and her lived together at my sister's for a couple of weeks. And in those few weeks, we saved money, and I got an apartment with her. And in the time that we got an apartment, I was working two jobs, and we really were like in this really tight relationship. But little did I know, or maybe I did know, but I didn't really care, was that she wasn't really as into me as I thought she would be. As far as like, I thought she really cared about me, but she liked the work that she was. So I feel like I didn't really realize that I was tricked because I had this like idealization that love was a real thing between us and that she really cared about me for me. But in actuality, um, she liked the fact that I was a simp. I didn't really know that at the time because I didn't realize that there were, you know, people that were I like really in love, and there were people who were using other people for how they felt. So I fell into the category of a simp, and I didn't really know that, right? But yeah, that went on for a few weeks until we got a place together, and I worked two jobs at the time, and we found a place together, and we moved in together. And time after we moved in together, um, things kind of fell into this weird place where like it went from I love you a lot and I really care about you to like I don't know. And it turned into this like it went into like a slower pace where I was like, do you really even care about me? And she was like, I don't know if I do or not. So I broke up with her, and I resented her for like while we actually lived together. And we lived together for a couple of months. And after maybe 3 or 4 months of like not talking in the same house, and not talking to somebody and living in the same house with them is really exhausting. Imagine you live in the same home with somebody, but you ignore them, but you still live in the same bedroom and you sleep in the same bed, which is fucked up. Like that's how we lived. And we had to avoid each other in the kitchen. We had to avoid each other in the living room, and we had to avoid each other in the bedroom. But we went to bed together at the same time every night. And a couple of months went by, and we eventually kind of talked and made up. And then after a couple of weeks of after making up, we started to get intimate again, and the sex shit happened again, and then we became a couple again. And I'm working this really good job, and I have a second job Ubering people around, and I'm doing very well. And one day I get out of work early and I catch her at home with somebody else, right? And I ask her, like, has this been going on? How long has this been going on? And she kind of admits, like, yeah, it's been going on for a couple of weeks. So that's where I'm like, oh, like that. That's kind of that's an issue, right? My heart's broken. So I'm very passive when it comes to my emotions right now. This is after having gone to Narcotics Anonymous for a couple of years, after having gotten out off of drugs, and I'm not really using alcohol as much before. And like I stopped alcohol straight up cold turkey for a couple of years. But when me and her started dating, I drank here and there just a little bit. So when we ended up breaking up this time, I had some drinks. I went to a bar. I went to go dance with some friends because things weren't working out for a few months anyway, and we started doing our own thing. So I started going out and hanging out with some of my friends and dancing and having a good time. And the night that I caught her cheating on me, I went out and I danced with some of my friends, my girlfriends and my friend, and came home. And that night that I came home, I had this weird. feeling, and I've talked about that here on the show before. I've talked about the feeling of like I'm compelled to do something and I don't know why I'm going to do this, but I'm compelled to do this. Like, I don't know if I'm not a religious person, but I feel like I'm compelled by God to do something that I might have no business doing. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but when I get this feeling of I should do it, I do it. So, like I kind of wreck shit. I kind of wrecked the apartment, and I came home from industry, and I wrecked the kitchen. I wrecked the fucking microwave. I wrecked a bunch of mirrors. And this was all shit that I put into the apartment. Mind you, it's not like this is stuff that she worked hard to put into the apartment. The whole time we were living together, most of the money that she made went into like her own personal shit, like her clothes. It went into her makeup, her hair, her fucking everything that has to do with her. And mostly everything that I had put into the apartment went into like appliances, rent, like making the apartment more comfortable for us. So I felt like when I caught her cheating and then I came home that night, like, why should she have all the comforts of the apartment that I put together? Like, I'm not going to ask her to leave. And it was her and me and her son living together. So I figured like, okay, I'm not gonna fuck with her son so much, but I'm not gonna let her live in this apartment without showing her that I was a big part of making this whole situation comfortable. So so yeah, I broke a bunch of shit. I destroyed a bunch of shit. Um, and she just kind of sat there on the bed when I walked in the apartment, and she just kind of like didn't say shit. And the whole time I was like, yeah, like this is how disappointed I feel. And when I asked her like how long was this going on, she kind of had no emotion, and I kind of like I teared up, I cried, and she kind of was like, "Yeah, it's been going on for a couple of weeks or whatever." And so I my heart was broken, and I wondered like, why aren't you sad about this situation, right? And so I figured she had been thinking about this for a long time. It was a long time coming. It could be a number of things. It could be the fact that she was done, but she didn't want to tell me because I think women avoid confrontation for obvious reasons. Like, look what I did. But it could have been that she was just afraid to say anything because she didn't want to come off as somebody who was like willing to fuck over or say goodbye to or say she didn't want to be with somebody who had been taking care of her like I was. So she had no emotion. She had nothing. She didn't say anything other than like, yeah, I did it. It's true. So when I got home from industry that night, I started wrecking the kitchen. I don't know what. Something came up to me. I was just compelled. I was like, I don't want to sleep with her again in the same bedroom. It's a weakling move. Obviously, it was a fucking fuck up on my part. And I've already you know um I don't want to sleep with her again. When I walked in the apartment, a fucking like a layer of I don't know what it was, like a disgust layer came over me, and I was like, I don't want to fucking forgive her. And if I sit here and fall asleep with her, we slept in the same bed for like half or like 7 or 8 months, also while not being together for like 3 or 4 months. So we slept in the same bed together while she was probably seeing other dudes. And at the time, I didn't realize like I'm being a simp. I didn't realize what the word meant. I didn't realize that when somebody crosses your boundaries, you should stand up for yourself and leave them. I didn't have the self esteem that I have today. I didn't have any really kind of self esteem. I didn't understand myself the way I do today. So that night was there was a revelation, there was a reckoning, right? That she broke my heart, and I don't understand why she doesn't like have a emotional reaction to breaking my heart. So when I got home, I started wrecking shit. I threw that was one of the coolest things, but it's also not cool. Was like I picked up my like flat screen TV and I threw it out the second story window, and I threw a bunch of fucking like at the time I was collecting ceramic cans and palm tree hands and all kinds of cool like mystical glass and ceramic shit. I tossed a lot of that shit out the window. I threw a bunch of shit against the wall. I broke a bunch of shit. I was being a complete asshole because I was completely heartbroken and I was fucking mad. And somewhere along the way, right? Um I think she got like a cut on the back of her ankle, and she was like, like she finally like showed reaction, like I don't like this. I'm not happy about this, right? And so she ran to the kitchen, and I decided, okay, you're starting, you're running away. Cool. So I'm leaving because like now you're starting to act like I'm the problem. Okay, cool. My whole issue was like you're not showing any emotion about it. And that's kind of what bothers me the most. So I walked out the front door and I left. And I showed up maybe 3 or 4 hours later, and I was like, "Oh hey, yeah, I left without my keys. I left without my phone. I left without my wallet. And I have money. I have my car, and I have people to go hang out. I need to leave here." And the second I got back, the cops took me to jail. I got charged with a fucking misdemeanor of violence, which is which sucks. And I went to court for 5 or 6 months. I pled not guilty, and I I told them take me to trial. Let's do it. Let's go to trial. Let's because I didn't do anything. And at the time, like she spoke to my mom, and she told my mom like he didn't really do anything. It was just fucked up that he went as far as fucking things up. And I figured like, okay, well, she told my mom I didn't do anything, which is cool. So I'm gonna be okay. But my lawyer didn't go to court a couple times, so they switched my lawyer. And over time, the DA changed a couple of times, and one of the newest DAs talked to my newer lawyer and was like, "Yeah, we're gonna find out what's up with this girl, and we're gonna bring her in, and we're gonna talk to her, and we're gonna try to, you know." And my idea is that like people who are working in these agencies, as far as the district attorney's agency, are going to try to fuck somebody over for as much as they can do. And at the time, like the girl that I was dating, like I didn't trust her anymore, right? How am I going to trust somebody who cheated on me and who didn't really have any kind of feelings for me after hurting my feelings and breaking my heart? How am I going to trust them with my future? So when the DA came back to my lawyer and said, like, we're going to pursue this charge, even though the DA told my previous lawyer that they were going to drop the charges, it kind of put some kind of fear in me. So my lawyer was like, hey, like they're going to pursue further charges. And I'm like, so the previous lawyer said they're going to drop them. So why is the current DA telling me that they're gonna push things further? The current lawyer I had was like, well, we don't know, but do you trust the girl to tell the new DA that nothing's wrong, that everything was as you said it was? And at this point, I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't trust this girl. She was like somebody who I took care of and who loved me for being somebody who got off drugs, somebody who cared about me for doing something better with my life. I went to NA. I started going to meetings to get my life back together so I could take care of my daughter. Somebody who told me they were proud of me for doing what I'm doing now. But then this is a person who cheated on me for not having as much as some other human now, not having as much as the next guy has right at that point. So I feel like she cheated on me because the next guy had more time and money to give her than I did. And I had just decided, like, well, I can't trust her. I'm not going to trust somebody twice with my future when it comes to me and my future. So if I just plead guilty, I asked them what happens if I plead guilty. They said, well, we'll give you um a deferred adjudication, which means if I go to probation, they will drop the charges eventually. And I'm like, so what do they have against me? And they were like, well, she has scratches on the back of her ankle. I'm like, the back of her ankle, like, I didn't threaten her, I didn't touch her, I never fucking did anything to harm her. So the issue was, I feel, and from what I know, there was so much fucking wreckage in the apartment that she kind of went through the apartment and cut the back of her ankle a little bit, and she scratched the back of her ankle, and that was as much damage as they could find. And they took pictures of the back of her ankle, so you can literally look this up. This is all like public. This is all public information. If you put in a request to find the file for what happened between me and her, it's just a scratch on the back of her ankle. But they made it sound like it was such a fucking awful thing. And I was like, well, I don't know if I should trust her. So then I just pled no contest to a deferred adjudication. And I'll go through probation. And at the end of all this, I'll pay the fines, I'll pay for the court costs, and at the end of all this, they'll drop the charges. So that's where we are today. And I'm right now in the place where right after February, I started to look into, like, why? Why did she do this to me? And at the beginning, I turned on my own self. I started to think that, like, maybe she turned on me for the obvious reasons. I don't have enough money. I don't have a lot of money to be able to give her everything she wants. I only have enough money to take care of the basics and the necessities in life. I only have enough money to do what we need for each other. I don't have enough to take her on trips or to buy her things or take her to clubs all the time. So, I mean, I think those are the reasons why she kind of, turned on me to go hang out with other dudes. And, it sucks to say that. I don't want to be the one to be like, yeah, she cheated. But to be honest, like, I learned over time that somebody else's character flaws are not a reflection of my issues in life. So the fact that she chose some other dudes to spend time with doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. It just means that she just doesn't know how to be content with where she's at. And another thing I learned over the last couple of years was that, or the last couple of months or whatever, like, a woman who is bored, it's not really the dude's fault. It's not really my fault, right? It's more the fact that she has no grasp of how to find interesting things to do. It's more of a problem that she doesn't have anything that she's fascinated with in reality in life. Why do I have to reflect? Like, why do I have to make that something that's on me? And the problem was at the beginning was that I didn't know how to differentiate. And we have the principle of differentiation right now, where we can decide that there's A and B. A would be that, like, she's somebody who has not a lot of morals and not a lot of principles, and B is that I have things going on that I have to take care of. At the beginning of our time together, she was very happy and very in love with the fact that I'm somebody who is taking care of myself and who's not trying to use drugs and who's trying to better himself. And on the other hand, she turned into somebody who was like, it's boring. I don't want to be with somebody who needs to take care of themselves. I want to be with somebody who's ready to just take care of me. And that's cool. But I think people, or in general, a lot of people avoid confrontation. And that's where the issue came in between me and her, was like, she couldn't really tell me exactly And at the time, I also had the problem where I was like, I love you, I want to be with you, and that's all I could think about, that's all I felt, right? So it could be said that I was thinking with my emotions and she was thinking with her boredom. And now one of the biggest things that I see now is that, like, I don't think men should lead with their emotions. I think men should lead with their with like the facts. I think the facts are more important than our feelings nowadays. And if you think if you think something different than that, then maybe we should talk about that one of these days on the show. But that's why I'm on probation right now. That's why I'm in the middle of some of the things I'm in right now and I'm going through right now. And as far as me, I don't think I'm a violent human being. I have been in the past, and we'll get into that eventually. Um, I've been through a lot of shit. I've been in a violent family relationship, and from a young age, from like the age of 12 through like my 20s, I was kind of an asshole when it came to people. I was pretty violent when it came to friends and family, and but that wasn't really a part of my last relationship. That was more or less like, I do have anger issues, but the anger issue in the last, at the last instance was very calculated. I realized that if I go to sleep with this person, on some level, I'm forgiving her. And if I forgive her after having cheated on me, then the boundary is like, cheated on me is something I don't like, but I might forgive you on some level. So that night that I got taken into jail, I probably spent like 17 or 18 hours in jail that night. That night that I went to jail, um, was the night that I realized, like, I don't want to do this anymore. It was like, I feel compelled to rip the band-aid off of this situation. Like, I don't want to be with her. She doesn't want to be with me. But if I go to sleep in the same bed as her, we'll wake up the next day and continue to be in this cycle. So I fucking had this like feeling of like, I'm compelled to just rip the band-aid off and we won't have to spend time together. And the weirdest thing is, before that, we never had arguments. It's weird. And so one of my really good friends, I think it was Megan, or one of my friends from Narcotics Anonymous, was like, yeah, having arguments is very healthy. Not having arguments is an unhealthy issue. Not having arguments is like, you're ignoring the fact that you both have issues. So that's where I realized that, like, avoiding confrontation is worse than arguing with somebody. And that's my last relationship. Me and her were together for a couple of years. Some of the issues had, like, some of the lesser parts of our issues were like, we were in separate scenes when it comes to like the music scenes, or the scenes like the bar scenes. She was like a emo scene queen. She was a she was beloved in the emo community, like a brass monkey kind of high tones emo community kind of girl. She was a hairdresser. She was somebody who did the hair of like multiple people in her scene. And I was somebody who latched onto her. I was a drug addict. I didn't know where my scene was before me and her didn't realize back. I didn't realize like me and her are different people. But when we broke up, I met Megan and Cindy and Nico and Michael and some other people, and I realized, like, I looked at my fucking tattoos, like, oh yeah, like, oh yeah, I'm one of these goth kids. I had always been a goth kid. I had always been a part of the goth community since like my early teens. I had just forgotten I was married from no, I was in a 10-year relationship from the age of 13 to 23. And after that, me and my wife got engaged and married from 23 to 28 or 29, and from the age of 29 to 33 I was with my daughter's mother and we had a baby, and my daughter's 5 now and I'm 37. So the timeline is a little skewed, but I was in a 10-year relationship, a 5-year marriage, um you know, a 5-year relationship with my daughter's mother, a 4-year relationship with the girl that I was with after my daughter's mother, who was a fucking abusive disaster. That was a person who I was with for the sex. She was this really cool Native American chick who I really like was into, but she was very violent and very fucking wild, and I liked it. I'm not gonna lie, I did like it, but it was a lot of fucking violence, physical violence that wasn't on my part. But that's when I met my match. Like that's when I met somebody who like really made me think like, holy fuck, women are just as violent as men can be. But after that, then I met the girl that I lived with up until February of this last year, and but like right after February of this last year, I realized like I should probably be alone. I have never been alone in 10, 15, 19, 23, or 24 years. In 24 years, I had never really been single up until, 2023. And now it's 2024. So it's been about a year and a half, and I've never really been single. And since February of last year up until now, I've finally been single for like about almost a year now. And it's very strange for me. For a couple of months I was like really lonely. It turned into like a lot of like negative tear, like I cried a lot for myself. I felt like I hated myself. There was like an instance of like suicidal self-deletion, self-destruction without the drugs, which is crazy. Imagine being self-destructive but not doing drugs, just alcohol and like kind of like hating yourself. That's what I had been in for a long time. And then I became, I don't know when it happened exactly. I want to say it was like June or July of last year, where like I started to look into like books and reading more than ever. I started to look into like spiritual leaders and seeking knowledge. So, in all of the shit that I had been through within the last year, some of the most important things that happened to me were some of the worst fucking things that happened to me. And like I wouldn't trade any of the terrible things that happened to me for anything in the world. As far as like the bad relationships, the being cheated on, the self deletion, the feelings of self deletion, the depression, the anxiety, and the hatred and the low self esteem, I would never trade that for anything else, because now I understand like how it was to get from point A to point B to point C to where I am now. So going through all that got me to where I am today, and it got me to be able to be like, I'm going to work multiple jobs, I'm going to kick ass, I'm going to spend most of my time trying to better myself. That way I don't have to feel like everything that's happening to me in my life is just happening to me. And now I have this like feeling of accomplishment, because I know that what's happening to me today is happening to me because this is where I want things to go. And it's a pretty powerful feeling to have that. Um I would say that my ex, the emo scene queen, the hairstyler, the hairstylist emo scene queen, I would, if I, and I'm not gonna ever like go up to her or ever like go down to her and say like, hey, this is how I feel. But I would say this: if in any way, shape, or form she heard from me, I would just want her to know that I'm thankful for what happened between me and her. In some fucked up way, I would be like, yeah, I'm okay with you cheating on me. I'm okay with you fucking me over, breaking my heart, tricking me, making me feel like I wasn't good enough. I'm okay with you making me feel like you were bored of me. That's fine because now I have a solid place in my world. Now I have solitude. I don't feel lonely anymore. I felt lonely for a while, but now I have solitude, which is like I'm happy to be alone. I don't have to put up with anybody. I don't have to put up with people like you. I don't have to put up with people who don't appreciate me. I have people in my life like that are people who care about me. And I don't know if that I had that exactly, but I have confirmation that I do have it now. I have people who care about me. I have people who want me to do well. I have people watching over me and loving me from close and people who are loving me from afar. And I didn't really have that before I caught you cheating on me. So I'm thankful for the way things went. Um, just like in some way, I'm thankful that my marriage didn't go well beforehand, and I met my daughter's mother because now I have a daughter. And after my daughter's mother, and after the person I was dating after her, I met the emo scene queen girl. And when that didn't go right, I found something that I will never lose for the rest of my life. And what that is like a sense of like self-esteem, a solid foundation within myself. And nobody could ever take that away from me. Um, and that's why if I ever saw her, I'd be like, thank you. And I wouldn't really get any deeper into it than that. Because obviously, like, I come off as the piece of shit asshole that wrecked everything and harmed somebody, or I'm the one with the misdemeanor charge, the deferred adjudication, whatever you want to call it. I'm the one that spent time in jail. I'm the one with the charges. I'm the one that pled not guilty. I'm the one that pled no contest after pleading not guilty because I didn't trust her. But I'm the one that went that has the legal issues. And but if I could, I would say like thank you for what you did because now I understand. And it's funny because I don't really want to get into this as much as I thought I was going to, but when that stuff happened to me in February, it turned me on to the red pill community, and the red pill community just kind of reminds me that there were some things that I didn't know growing up that I know now, and there are some truths about women male dynamics that I didn't realize were happening. Um, there are some people who use other people, and this is an issue that I want to bring up a couple times on my show in the future. I have a few friends who are going through some situations that are very similar. I had a friend who was going through some really negative personal problems with a girl he was dating, and after some really shitty situations happened, um, he became what they'd call like a self-deletion idealist, like suicidal type of a guy. And not only him, I had a friend who was a very well-known personality here in San Antonio who him in the club scene. Him and his wife had some falling out and some really bad stuff happened, and he didn't feel very well about himself. He felt what I would call suicidal. I don't like to say that a bunch on this show, but he felt that way. And I felt like that right after February. Like I felt that way about myself. Over time, I started reading books, started talking to people, started looking into spiritual advisors, started to realize that somebody else's lack of principle, somebody else's lack of moral values, and somebody else's shortcoming doesn't have anything to do with me exactly, or I shouldn't put that on myself. Why is it that somebody cheated on me is going to make me not like myself? I like my family. I like my friends. I like the things that I think. I like the things that are important to me about myself. So why do I feel suicidal about somebody else fucking me over? It doesn't make sense. But that's not something that you figure out on your own. I think that's something that you figure out after, you know, I think that's something you figure out after trial and error. And it took me a long time to understand that it's not my fault. It's not my fault. And as much as, the other person might say it's my fault, or as much as my basic instinct, the the beginning of my thought process is to tell myself that it is my fault. It's not my fault. And it's not anybody's fault when somebody cheats on them. It's nobody's fault when the other person doesn't have a principle system that keeps them strong. And it's nobody's fault. It's not the person's fault when they're cheated on, when the other person avoids confrontation and can't tell them like, I don't want to be with you. Like an adult, that's what an adult does. I think I could still be friends with the girl. And as much as like I might have some kind of animosity on some level, I could say like, look, there were just things we didn't talk about. We could figure it out. Not that I kind of want to push that, but I think like the healthiest thing for everybody is to get into the confrontation part and to get into airing out their grievances. If she would have just said like, I didn't want to tell you that I didn't want to be with you because I don't know how to tell you that I just want to have fun and I just want to be with somebody else, I would have been like, oh, okay, maybe that's actually something we should have fucking gotten into and we could figure it out. But honestly, I didn't want to live with her anymore. I don't want to be her roommate after being in a relationship with her. So I don't know. It couldn't have gone that. It couldn't have been that smooth while I was living with her. But definitely don't want to avoid confrontation with it. And even having said that, I still fucked the situation by causing damage to the apartment. So I'm kind of all over the place when it comes to this. Maybe I still have to explore this. This might not be the last podcast when it comes to talking about my issue with my ex, right? There's still some problems with it. Maybe I'm not exactly healed, but I hate when people say you're not healed, then you have issues that you can't move forward if you're not. Like, I could probably still move forward, but I probably don't want to deal with this kind of shit again, right? I don't want to deal with somebody who's shitting again. So if I find out somebody's cheating again, maybe I'll just leave and not get into it the same way I got into the last fuck up relationship. Maybe I won't deal with somebody who is in a different scene than me, because this girl was in the emo scene and I'm like a part of the goth scene. I didn't realize when I was with her that, like I said, I didn't realize that I'm a goth dude. I have been since I was 13. And she's like an emo type of a girl, which is very petty and very weird. But on some level, if you're a part of either scene, you realize that like the goth scene and the emo scene, there's not a lot in common with each scene. Like they're two different types of guys and girls. But if I would have like realized that beforehand, maybe I would have been better off. But I only found out afterwards that she's a different kind of girl than me. I'm not an emo kind of guy. I'm into dancing. Emos are into moshing and fucking chanting fucking choruses and fucking $2 beers. But goths are into like fashion and dancing. There's a difference between each group and each fucking scene. But there are people who can integrate between. There are people who are gothy, but they still hang out with the emos, and vice versa. Yes, but I'm not one of those types, right? And I think if I would have just known that she's different than me in that regard, maybe we would have like done our own thing and not tried with each other. But honestly, I wasn't as mature as I am now back then. So maybe this disaster was inevitable. But in all honesty, it's more it's more beneficial that it did happen than if it didn't happen. Because like I said, I learned something that you can't take away from me now. Like the self-esteem that I have now, the idea that somebody cheating on me is not really on me so much as it's on their lack of principles, someone's lack of ability to confront somebody and explain to somebody why they are going to leave or why they don't want to be with somebody. Their lack of that ability doesn't really have doesn't have a lot to do with me, I don't think. And I've been through that a couple times. Like I had a friend who has like mental health issues within the last couple of months who every time I spent time around her, um she made me feel like I was a bad person. But some people just avoid confrontation because they don't know how to do any better or they don't know how to go about talking about certain things. And I had to cut that person off because every time I spent time around her, she made me feel like I was a bad person, like I was a bad guy. And it could have been just like me and her making jokes about something around us, music, people around us that we would like crack on. And then out of the blue, she would say, I crossed the line or I hurt her feeling. But she she did this in like a really passive aggressive way. So I think if you just learn how to confront people and talk to them legitimately about your issues and the grievances and communicate back and forth without personalizing things too much, there could be a lot of progress made between two friends, even people who didn't understand each other or people who didn't know how to see eye to eye with each other. But I don't know. That was just like that has to do with my latest breakup. And ever since then, I took the time to reflect on myself and some of the things about me that maybe I lacked in my last relationship were I don't work enough. I have like a 30, 40 hour job. I think maybe having a 60-hour situation is important. And after having a 60-hour job, maybe getting more hours is important. Maybe an 80-hour situation every week is good. And 80 hours a week is good. Maybe more than that. I've heard of people working more than 80 hours a week, which is intense, but you get enough sleep, you get enough money in your world, you're comfortable enough to do more things than you thought you were able to do. And after being turned on to the red pill, I met like Kevin Samuels, and Kevin Samuels turning me on. Things aren't going well in your life. The only thing stopping you from getting better is yourself. So I'm pretty grateful that everything that happened within the last 2 years happened. It set me back somewhat, but I learned some things that you could take away from self-esteem stuff ain't going anywhere. The work ethic thing that I've learned recently, that's not going anywhere. It gave me so much stride in my pace that I started the podcast. I have business cards coming. I have studio, parts of my studio coming, co-hosts coming, people to come on the show. I've been going out to clubs and hanging out at work, talking to people about my life and telling them like I have a podcast. Come on the show. Let's talk about different things. Let's get together and put our minds together and get to talking about some of the things that are important to us. And I've found people who are very creative and people who are willing to be a part of the Doom Scrolls. And the Doom Scrolls is my new project, right? The Doom Scrolls never would have happened if I stayed complacent in a relationship with somebody who, you know, didn't want to tell me they don't want to be with me. So I'm very thankful that those things happened. I'm very thankful because now I'm working at one of the coolest places. I'm working at Sancho's, right? I'm working at the warehouse that I'm working at. A lot of the things that changed for me happened because of the bad. So I'm coming from a place of the negative aspects of my last couple of years are going to turn into the fruits of my labor in the next couple of months. And it's kind of a beautiful notion. If you ever look back at your life and you looked at some of the most fucked up things that ever happened to you, and then you look at your present self and you look at some of the best parts of your reality, you could tell yourself, like, you can see that if it wasn't for that fucked up thing that happened before, I wouldn't have this really great part of my life. And for me, it's like, if my marriage didn't fucking, go downhill, I wouldn't have my daughter. If my last relationship didn't go down in flames, I wouldn't have myself. And, you know, if I didn't grow up mostly most of my whole life without like money being given to me and wealth being handed to me, I wouldn't have the work ethic that I have today. And now I have the doom scrolls, and now I have people listening to me, and I have friends coming to hang out. And and with the business cards that I have coming to me, I have like the opportunity to hand these to people and be like, hey, come on the show, come spend time with me. I'm building a studio. I'm getting more space to bring people into the show. That way I could have multiple cameras, multiple people in the show so I can produce more content. And I don't know what to say other than I'm pretty grateful for everything that has ever happened, good or bad. And that's like a very spiritual, powerful place to be in your life. I wish that upon everybody that I know today. I wish that you can progress from the negative shit that you've been through to the place in your life where you can be like, I'm glad it all happened because I'm happy now. And if it wasn't for everything that happened to me that sucked, I wouldn't be in such a good place today. And I am happy to be able to like help the people around me. And like, I was never the type of guy to give gifts or be able to be financially stable enough to give somebody else something, but that's where I am today. And it's amazing to have that ability, but it didn't come from like, having had the ability to do that forever. It came from working through all the issues that I've been through over the last couple of years to becoming. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful for, like I said, the cheating, the lying, the fuck ups, the intense fucking labor that I've had to put in the last couple of years. Um, I wouldn't trade anything for anything. If you ask me what would you trade to get what you wanted in life, I would say I wouldn't trade anything to get anything, because I would be short. I would be selling myself short. There's probably some things in the future that I could never expect I would have, but I'm going to have them because I'm putting in the work that I have been putting in. So I don't know, man. That was my story about my last breakup. And now um I was dating a bunch of women in the scene. I was dating a bunch of there are people who are willing and waiting for me, but I decided that, like, I have different standards today than I had before. I don't want anybody who is like a scene kind of a person so much as I would be open to the idea, but I'm not chasing a scene person the way I was before. The rebellious women that I used to be up to, like, oh yeah, I want that person. I'm not going after that person first and foremost, exactly. Um, I'm being very selective when it comes to somebody I want to be with. I've dated women and I've had relationships like here and there, little small ones with women. But when I find out that your hobby is you want to drink, Or like I found out your hobby is like you want to do drugs or you want to smoke tons of weed and you're not really into learning, you don't want to be an intellectual. There are red flags that I don't want to have in my future with somebody. I just decided to say goodbye. And I didn't have that so much before, the ability to just be alone. So when I say I have solitude today, like it's a pretty important aspect of who I am right now. But yeah, I wouldn't trade this shit for anybody. And I don't want to be with somebody who isn't there for me. So I've met some women who want to be with somebody because they don't have anybody, or I've met some women who want to be with somebody because they feel lonely or they're unhappy. But I tend to have the ability to see that now more than before because I recognize negative traits within myself and I see them in other people today. I guess you call that projecting. Maybe you call that projecting, but I call it being aware because I've had experiences with myself and I've had experiences with other people that are very similar to what is going on around me now. And a cool thing about, not jumping at every relationship or every person that comes at me is I've noticed that when I say no to somebody or when I spend time with somebody and I take a step back, they end up meeting somebody who they actually really love and care about. So sometimes things happen for a reason and sometimes things don't happen for a very good reason. I've had some people who I tried talking to and didn't really want to be with after meeting them who had kids with the next person they were with or got married with the next person they were with. Like the movie Good Luck Chuck. It's like I'm cursed to break up with somebody and that person meets the love of their life and they get married and they're happily living happily ever after, which is cool. Okay. I guess that's where it is for me. But I think my fate is more attached to learning lessons and teaching other people lessons in the way that I am doing right now. And if you look at me right now, I'm talking into a microphone. I'm broadcasting to people through YouTube. There's no telling how many people it's going to reach. At first, it's going to be slow, right? At first, it's going to be, maybe a dozen people. This episode might touch a few people. And then over time, I might get the attention of some other people. And I might do a show with my second co-host, or I might do a show with three co-hosts. I'll do a four-man show in the future. It'll be me and three other friends, and maybe it will touch more friends. And then this episode will touch somebody later on down the line, right? And it'll get to them at the time where it was meant to get to them. So like I said, like I feel compelled to do these things because I know it'll touch the right person eventually. But not gonna give up because nobody's watching. There are going to be mistakes. There are going to be issues. There's going to be boring shows. This might be a boring show. This might come off as just me complaining. This might just come off as me being a fucking bitch and crying about my last relationship. And if you see it that way, cool. Tell me that's what you see. Tell me that you only see this episode as you're hurt and you need to get over it and you need to learn how to stop complaining and crying. Tell me that's what you see. That's fine. But what I see is somebody who is compelled to allow their experiences to flow through them so that somebody else can see that you're not the only one that's been there. I've had friends who are suicidal, who want to hurt themselves, who don't exactly know, they don't have a way out, and they don't know, they think that they're alone or they think that they're not a man because their girl cheated on them, or I think that they're like less than because their partner chose somebody, could be even a woman, but because somebody cheats on you doesn't mean that you're a bad person or that you're less than or that there's no negative thing that kind of reflects on you. Even if your ex told you that, person that cheated on you said that it was your fault, that's not exactly true. And I think that me posting this fucking podcast tells you that you're not alone, and there are more lessons to find through these issues than to just give up and feel like shit and sit there and feel sorry for yourself because these things have happened. I know a lot of us have been cheated on. A lot of us learn how to get through them. Not a lot of us can just do it on our own. I wasn't one that could just do it on my own. It took me a lot of studying, a lot of learning, a lot of following spiritual teachers. I had to learn from my friend Michael, who went through some type of shit with his ex. I think he was working a lot, and his ex stepped out on him. And Michael, I'm sorry if I said that out of school, and I don't know if I was talking about that. Nobody knows who you are. Fuck it. Um, but some of the things that he went through, right, um, rubbed off on me. So when me and I remember going through some issues with my emo scene queen ex, and January or December of 2022, December of 22, right around up until January of 23, where we weren't doing too well and we were broken up. So we were like doing our own thing. She was going to Brass Monkey. I was going to Bonham or Industry. I had just started hanging out with the goth kids because I didn't really even realize that the goth kids were out there the way there are today. There are goth nights at different places. There's fucking Cream nightclub and Industry Tracks Club. Industry has like a tracks bar. The Bottom has like a goth area sometimes, once in a while out of the month. And I met Cindy, Ben, Nico, Megan, and Michael at the Bottom for the first time. And I saw them the next day at Industry. I looked up like goth club shit, and I met them at Industry the next day, and they were like, "Hey, didn't we see you at the Bottom last night?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, you guys did see me at Bottom. I have been going through some really fucked up shit. I went through a breakup, and I've been feeling lonely." And they danced with me, and they embraced me, and they brought me in their group. And over time, I started to learn about the things that they had been through. And my friend Michael had been through like a really bad breakup many years ago. I think he was married for 15 years. I don't know exactly the full details. I'm sorry, Michael, if this is talking out of school, but some of the things that you went through, some of the things that you had been through, I took inspiration from. So I know Ben, Nico was like, yeah, Michael was fucked up. Michael fucking hated what he was going through because he was married and things weren't going so well. But him and his wife at the time split up, and he didn't feel very well, and he was sad, and he didn't understand what, he had the same issues that you were going through, but somebody reminded him of his spirit, right? With it, like without saying those words, they did tell me that that's what happened. He learned how to dance. He learned how to love himself. They said that he was wearing like cool clothes and he was dressing different, and people were like, he's not being himself. He's being somebody else. He's trying to put on a show, and he's trying to like be cool. But what people don't understand is we're not all the same, right? Some of us like to dress really cool. Some of us like to show up and show out. And some of us like to be. And Ben reminded me that Michael went through the same shit you're going through. Because I'd go to the bar and I'd be there with all my friends, and I'd be like crying I would literally be at the club crying, sitting at the table crying, drinking my alcohol. And they'd be like, come dance. And I'd be like, I don't know how to. I don't know how to dance if I don't feel good. Like, I don't know how to dance if my spirits aren't high. If I don't fucking have, like, if I'm not in high spirits, I am not going to have the ability to feel sexy and dance, be great. And people, I think, were like, okay, we get it. We understand. So nobody really pushed me, right? But over time, I saw people having fun, and they kept inviting me out, and they kept bringing me in. And Ben was like, Michael went through this. And he came out of the other side, somebody who was so fucking cool and in love with life. And Michael has like this spark of life inside of him. And I didn't really want to imitate that, but I was like, okay, well, if he found that, I'm going to be willing to try. Michael has like one of the coolest girlfriends now, my friend Megan. He has a lot of people who love him. He's like the light of the club. He's like the belle of the ball. Michael's like one of the coolest dudes, and wouldn't you know it? Following him spiritually into the path that he's in now, getting pointers from some of my friends that told me like what he went through was what you're going through. I fucking realized that yeah, maybe I just need to keep giving it a chance. Maybe I just need to keep trying to love and enjoy your life the way he did, and he wasn't feeling good the same way I wasn't feeling good, and he came into his own, and I learned how to have like a style, and I learned how to have you know the love for myself through the friends that he brought into my life, and that well some of my other friends brought into my world, and I'm pretty thankful that Michael was a part of my life because he showed me some of the things that I didn't know I had within me. Like my spirit is big today. I go out and I dance with my friends, and my spirit is bigger than I could have ever imagined was possible. So shout outs to Mike and shout outs to Ben, Nico. And then me and my friend Ben, Nico, me and Ben are not friends anymore. But when we were, everything was cool. But whenever fucking personal shit happened between us, then I can't take it back, and I can't fucking not gonna tell him that I forgive him for some of the shit that we've been through. But me and him aren't friends, and it's just like that's what happens when a lot of personalities come together and people are going through the types of problems we're going through. I don't know what his issues were, but he did something to be fond of. But Ben reminded me that, there is a cure, there is a way out of depression. And when I look at it now, I realize that depression is when you look at some of the issues in your life that you can't change, but you keep looking at them, and not even God will change these issues, and not you don't have a time machine. You can't go back in time and fix these issues. But when you sit there and try to worry about some of the issues that you're going through, um, that not even God will change, you're really just spending tons of energy on something that's unchangeable. You cannot change something God won't change. So you end up so energyless, so fucked, so sucked of your own energy that you lay in bed in the morning and you can't get up. So I try not to worry about stuff that I can't change in my life. And it's like the serenity prayer says, right? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. We learn how to differentiate. And one of the most important things that I learned in life is that I need to learn how to develop principles. Principles like compassion, honor. The principles are like action words that you can use in any of the issues of your life that you're going through. And sometimes you have to learn how to differentiate, right? Differentiate a problem that's my problem and a problem that's your problem, or a problem that's my problem and a problem that's God's problem that not even God's willing to fix. So if somebody's cheating on me, it's not really my problem when I think it might be, but it really is that person's fucking lack of principle. Or something that happens within time, like somebody dies or a relationship goes south. Am I going to spend time worrying about it, or am I going to change my perspective and worry about what I have to worry about? Because like the principle of differentiation is a very important one, probably one of the most important ones that I've learned over the last couple of years. And that's just a list of that's a very long laundry list of some of the things that I had been going through over the last couple of years. And I might revisit some of this eventually, but that was the breakup. That was the breakup story. That's why I'm on probation now. That's why I'm kind of hindered when it comes to pushing forward in my own life. That's why I say I'm kind of an adult, but I'm kind of not a full adult because I'm still dealing with some of my own wreckage of my own past. But that's not to say that I'm giving up. It's just saying that it's just to say that things are pretty tough when it comes to my life. Um, you know, but when things get tough, I don't give up. And I don't think anybody should give up. I think when things are getting tough, you're about to learn a really fucking harsh lesson that's coming to you. And like I said, anytime that things are going bad in my life, I'm thankful for the issues that I've learned how to get through. So if I see something really hard coming towards me, I look at it now and I'm like, all right, let's fucking do this. Because over time, when I'm past this, I'll know how to do something that I didn't know how to do before, that I might have been on some level scared of, but I didn't give up. And I'm not going to fucking turn around and say that I won't do it just because I'm scared of it. So the last couple of years taught me a lot of very important things that nobody could take from me. Nobody could fucking take shit from me like these things that I've learned within the last couple of years. But anyway, that was my story. Some of the lessons I've learned. It's been about an hour and a half, and you know, I'm glad I could explain some. And maybe perhaps being fucked up drunk is not a good way to go about starting one of these episodes. And if somebody doesn't like the fact that I did this episode drunk, let me know. Comment, like, subscribe, send me hate mail, send me a fucking email. I'll get the business cards out there. If anybody wants a business card, hit me up. If some of you are willing to watch this entire episode, just let me know that you watch. Tell me if it sucked. Give me pointers. I like hate mail. I like fan mail. I like positive shit. But I let my haters motivate me more than anything else, I think. So let me know how things are things are going in my own fucking show. Let me know what you thought about my story. Obviously I made some mistakes. I'm sorry to my ex for some of the fucking shitty things I did, but I'm actually pretty thankful that she fucked me over in the end. And my family misses you. I think you're still a good person, even though there were some shortcomings between both of us. Thank you to Michael. Thank you to Megan, Cindy. Thank you to Steven, Angel, Eli, a lot of my friends in the scene. If it wasn't for a lot of you guys, Ghost, Marie, Scarlett, Nick, Danielle, if it wasn't for a lot of you people that are in the scene that reminded me that I'm beloved within this this city, I don't know what I would have done. I might have fucking given up on myself and just kind of laid in bed and not tried to search for answers. But I'm a seeker now. Honestly, I'm a seeker, and seekers are very important. I feel like I'm an important person because I will continue to seek for fucking knowledge and wisdom. And as long as people are seeking wisdom, there's going to be more and more people in the future that have issues, that have a way out of their fucking problems. Just like I think I can get through anything now. I think I have the ability to get through anything as long as the problem isn't too hard for me to figure out. As long as I know what the problem might be, I'll be able to find a solution. Because I've been through some pretty fucked up things in the last couple of years. As far as drug addiction, bad relationships, self-esteem issues, quality of life issues, financial issues, debt, fucking image issues, all those things. So this was the Doom Scrolls podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe. Share this shit if you want on your Facebook, or block me and fucking block my channel, block my Facebook, or send me a Facebook like, send me fucking YouTube likes. Join my TikTok. It's Redfield Christopher. So my TikTok is where I talk about motivational stuff, motivational ideas, books that I've been reading.
um, it's pretty important to me to try to help other people get through stuff that I couldn't get through without help. I had to look for the help, but if you just look to me, maybe you'll be able to find something that I couldn't find without other people like you. But anyway, like, subscribe, check me out. Thanks for watching the Dib Scrolls. This was just one of my crazy, like, complaining, storytelling episodes. Hopefully we'll be back next week with Steven. Thanks for watching, guys.